Hi, I told you earlier that we were going to be privy to a special conversation tonight. And as we do this little tour of haunted spots in Bellingham, one of the people I wanted to make sure we talked to is my good friend Sherry Mulholland. Now, Sherry, during the day, people would know you as what? What do you do for a living?
I'm a counselor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, some other people know you, another side of you, and what's that side of you, and how does it fit with this conversation we're going to have about Fairhaven?
Well, some people know me as an investigator of the paranormal and investigator of many realms of anything unknown, and then they know me as a medium also.
Tell me what that is. How do you define being a medium?
I in tune well with people who are dead.
So you can talk to dead people?
Or they talk to me.
Or talk to you,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we can all talk to dead people, but they talk to me.
Oh, okay. A lot of people wouldn't believe that, though, that anybody could talk to dead people. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I think it's a choice. We all have choices whether we want to believe or not. So it's a choice.
And as I recall, you've had this ability a long time.
Yeah, pretty much all my life.
Tell me, you have an interesting story to me about how this first manifested itself, this ability, and what people thought was going on, which at the time was totally wrong.
What do you mean?
Well, I was talking about when you were a younger person,
Okay.
and you started to manifest some of these abilities.
Okay.
I think, as I recall the story, and I'm feeding you a little bit of this, that your parents thought there was something wrong with you.
Yeah, my parents were a little worried about me. It was mainly my brothers that were more concerned about me, and I had one out of four brothers. I had one that was very psychic, and he was concerned about me because he was much older than me, and he told me to be very careful. He says you have a gift, and you can be very dangerous. And he and my mother both told me to be very careful. And so as I got older, I got more guarded and a little bit more. Uh, uh, I didn't really let myself get out there very much and put it out there, and I kept my guard up. But then maybe about 20 some years ago, I just got very close to what I would call my spirituality, my faith.
And part of that was being a medium
and so I allowed my mediumship to grow once I realized that God is taking care of me, whatever you want to call God.
Mm-hmm.
Higher power, many people call it many different things. I usually use the term creator, that I'm being protected and taken care of, and I trust that. And so I was able to let go and allow the mediumship to build in me, and so I don't fear the spirit world.
Okay. So, as I mentioned a little bit ago, one of the reasons to have you on this little video clip is you were the director, the founder, co-founder of something called BOO, the Bellingham Observers of the Odd and Obscure. And you, as the co-founder and as a member of that group, you did a lot of investigations in the Fairhaven area.
I did.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we started out in Fairhaven in 2004, and we did our first investigation into the Sycamore building, and we got permission to go in, and it's been a regular, that building in particular, the Sycamore building, back in the days of like 1890 and up into much more recent, like up into 1990, it was called the Mason Block building. And then another corporation developer came in and bought property up around that area, and he bought the Mason Block building, and he changed the name to the Sycamore building, because that's the name of his corporation.
Now, earlier when we did the intro to this, we talked about the fact that you guys have done a lot of investigations in the Sycamore building, and we've got a couple other sites we'll talk about. But let's go with the Sycamore building. What's going on in the Sycamore building in terms of spirit activity? What have you experienced?
We've experienced everything in there you can imagine, and it's active 24/7. Anybody could go in there and have experiences any time of the day or night, and that building, because several of the restaurants in there, is open quite late at night, and that's why I say at night, and people can be visiting it in the daytime and still have experiences like, perhaps maybe a spirit touching them, or see an apparition walking away, or see shadow people. There's shadow people in the building, which to my knowledge has never hurt anyone. I know the shadow people have never alarmed or hurt anybody in my group, and we've been in there for years at all hours of the night, even when the building was all closed and locked up, and the shadow people never bothered us. We've had other teams come in as guest teams from as far down as Seattle, come on up and investigate in there. And there was one team in particular called Fog, and they actually got a photo of a shadow person in that building.
I've seen that photo.
Yeah,
very
you have.
intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Very intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit more about some of the things you've experienced or know others have experienced in the Sycamore. Then we'll kind of work back. We've got a couple other properties that we've already showcased, Dos Padres and the library, which we did the intro in.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say there's people hanging around spirit activity in the Mason building or the Sycamore, what are you really talking about? Are you talking about people who have passed on that for some reason have an affinity for the place that want to...
I think so. It seems like it's like a big party house. It's like when the building is quiet and everything's locked down and everybody that's doing business is out of there and you have your paranormal groups in there, it's almost like you hear the noise of a party taking place behind closed doors in one of the restaurants. You can sometimes hear like glasses clinking as if people are toasting one another. You can hear voices of conversations. Sometimes you can hear singing, and that's just with your hearing. But on EVPs, you catch so much more. We've got so many wondrous EVPs in there, and sometimes we have ghosts yell out to us, and we can actually hear it, like as if they're just a couple floors above us. But when we walk around and try to find where the sounds are coming from, exactly where is it coming from, whenever we walk around the 4 floors, and there's this, what do you call it, mezzanine?
Or mezzanine?
Mezzanine,
yeah.
You walk around the building, it seems like when you're on this side, the noise, the sounds of the conversations are on this side, and when you're over here, they're going to be over here. And you can never really particularly find out where the voices have come from. It's like there's a party, and some nights we're invited, they'll let us hear, and then some nights the building's just really quiet.
I remember my history about the Mason Block building of Sycamore. There was, back in the early 1900s, there was a gentleman's club, the Cascade Gentleman's Club. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Could some of the spirit activity be related to people who used to attend that
Very
club?
much so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The smell of the cigar smoke used to be very strong in there, and I think that came from the Gentleman's Club. Now there is a tobacco and cigar store, pipe store down at the bottom level, but there's nobody in there smoking cigars at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, there's nobody smoking in the building at all. Now with the non-smoking signs and all, everybody's outside if they are. But certainly not at 2 to 4, 6 in the morning when we've experienced that.
So you mentioned EVP, electronic voice phenomena. So do you think it's possible that you're hearing, in some of the EVPs that get recorded, you're hearing the voices of people who used to attend functions at the Cascade?
I think so. And I've talked to some psychics that were guest psychics and that, and there's a water fountain on the first floor, and they've told me that they believe that because of the water fountain, the element of water, it brings in more of a like a portal experience where spirits can come in and leave at will. And some of the spirits that we've gotten EVPs from sound like spirits from a more modern age. And I'll give you an example of an EVP. One of our investigators who was very intuitive, and she was provoking the spirits in a nice way. She wasn't getting belligerent, or she wasn't cussing at them or anything like that. But she was provoking them in a nice way. And there was female spirits saying, as if they were talking to another woman or something, they said, "Bitch slap her." They were really angry at this investigator. And you could actually hear like the sound of heels walking on high heel shoes, walking on a tiled floor, or aluminum floor, or a linoleum floor, and you could actually hear what sounded like somebody slapping.
Oh, really? Somebody getting bitch slapped.
And so, you know, that expression is a new expression in our culture. So that's what I'm talking about.
You know, one other thing, and then we'll go on to some of these other topics. And we were talking about it earlier today, that there may be some evidence of a murder where somebody was actually pushed over a railing on 1 or 2 floors above the ground floor. What can you tell us about that?
I first experienced it back in 2004 when we first went in. It was a group of, we were all women that went in. There was 4 of us. And me and another woman who was very psychic also got the same feeling that somebody on the 3rd floor had fallen over the railing and fallen to her death. And we both agreed it was a woman. Now I've got all these other groups that are coming up as guests, and they bring their psychics in who doesn't know any of the history. They haven't heard what our impressions have been, what our thoughts have been, and the information that we gathered as mediums and psychics. And they come to the same spot on the 3rd floor and say they feel like something's pulling them, like somebody maybe fell off there. There's only a record of one woman who's died there, and she was the wife of a man who was the marshal of Fairhaven, and he owned he was a quarter partner of the building, and her name was Flora Blakely. And I suspect that maybe there was a quarrel, and she got thrown over, pushed or got hit strongly and fell over the railing and fell to her death.
So there's more going on in the Sycamore than good food, good restaurants, the bar that's in there that I go to frequently.
And she's still there. Her spirit is still there.
And you've experienced...
She's made contact with us,
You've experienced her presence.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple other properties. And we're not going to talk so much about things that have happened in the properties, but evidence that has been gathered, and then I'm going to ask you your opinion about that evidence.
Okay.
So Dos Padres is a Mexican restaurant that's really just down the street from Sycamore, right on the other side of the street. Some stuff that I've seen, and there's a book out that's available through most bookstores called Haunted Fairhaven. And one of the things they talk about, types of evidence that gotten in Dos Padres, is shadow people. And you referred to that a minute ago when we were talking about the Sycamore building. So what is what's your best explanation as to what a shadow person is? And you might say we don't really know what it is.
We don't. And I'm very open-minded about that. I sometimes think they're interdimensional. That I really my thoughts kind of get way out there on that subject, because sometimes I sometimes believe this is going to sound crazy.
Hey, all this stuff sounds kind of crazy to somebody.
Sometimes I think maybe they're time travelers.
from other dimensions,
Yeah,
altered
looking
dimensions.
in on us. Yeah, and kind of watching us and viewing us, and maybe we're shadow beings to them. I mean, who's to say? Um, and I think they can move around a lot more than we give them credit for. Like maybe the same shadow people that have been captured, been seen in the Sycamore building, might be the same ones that are visiting the Dos Padres. It's very close
Mm-hmm.
as far as walking distance from building to building.
Because I vividly remember seeing that picture from the second floor of the
Mm-hmm.
Sycamore, where you were essentially looking at the outline, and it was all blacked
Yeah.
out. There was no details.
Right.
Outline of a human being.
Yeah.
And you had to say to yourself, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah, it definitely looked like a man because there was no frilly hair.
Right.
It was,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So and I remember you and I, when I lived up here, we did a presentation at Western Washington about hauntings.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember this particular incident, but there was a young girl. We asked I don't know how many people were in there, maybe 50.
Mhm.
We said, "Is there anybody in here who's ever experienced a shadow person?" And this little girl in the back kind of raised her hand and said, "Oh, I have."
Mhm.
And we said, "Well, tell us about it." And she said, and I want you to think about this, your reaction to this, particularly if you don't believe in this kind of stuff.
Okay.
This little girl wakes up in the middle of the night, and standing at the foot of her bed, standing around her bed, were 4 shadow beings, a couple of which had hoods around them, and you could see the hoods.
Mhm.
So what would a person do with that?
I don't know. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
I might give up ghost hunting. If that happened to me.
Right, there could
Yeah.
be an incentive to do
Yeah.
that. Let's switch now from Dos Padres, and you can visit, if you come to Fairhaven, you can visit all these
Yeah,
places.
yeah.
The library seems to be a haunted spot, and that's where we did the opening
Yeah.
for this little piece. One of the bits of evidence that comes out of the library, and it's not just in that particular location, it's all over the place, are orbs. So
Mhm.
people will take these pictures, usually with a digital camera, and they will, when the photo reveals itself, there'll be these orbs or circles,
Mhm.
and most of which are not totally transparent, some of which are not transparent at all. But there's a big debate or discussion about what this represents. And some people would say, hey, it's just you're capturing pollen
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
dust or something like that
Mhm.
on a digital lens. Other people will say, well, no, this could be evidence of spirits.
Mhm.
And they sometimes come in a variety of different colors.
Mhm.
So where are you at with orbs, whether they show up in the
Well,
library at Fairhaven or other places?
I think a lot of times it is just things in the air that a digital camera picked up on. I think if you have a 35 millimeter camera and you're picking up orbs, that's a much better proof maybe there's something paranormal going on there. But I have seen orbs on video camera that I truly believe are of a spirit nature.
And what makes you think that these orbs you're seeing are more likely spirit entities than something else?
Well, the ones that I'm thinking of is some that I've captured myself, and they actually made a noise as they moved about. They made a clicking noise, almost like electricity, a low level or maybe a higher level. But what I'm saying at a low level is it wasn't loud. It was just almost like a little shock. Click, 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 as it was moving along. And it didn't get brighter or anything when you'd hear the click. It was just the sound of maybe electricity clicking. And that's not dust. That's not pollen.
So you kind of eliminate what it couldn't be, and then you're left.
Yeah, I think, no, that's not dust, that's not pollen. This has got energy to it.
Would you be more likely to associate an orb with a spirit entity if you had other evidence that spirit entities were there? And what I'm thinking of is you've heard an EVP of someone talking when you saw the orb.
Yeah, I would.
You had some kind of electromagnetic charge show up.
Yeah, I would. But I can't remember. I don't remember ever having that kind of evidence come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's usually
at the same time. Yeah,
one
or
piece
the
of
other.
evidence, and then you're kind of frustrated as to how to interpret that. Well, so we've got Dos Padres, we've got the Shadow People.
One more thing I want to say about
yeah, sure.
those Padres is, for anybody viewing this and you get up to Bellingham, if you go into the bar of Dos Padres, the bartenders usually, they're very open about their spirit, and there's a female spirit, and I can't remember her name, but they're very open to talking about her, and you talk to the bartenders, they'll tell you the story and what the employees believe, and so that's pretty interesting.
I think I've had a similar experience in a bar in the Sycamore building called the Black Cat, talking to somebody who was a bartender, and maybe some today when we went in to do the promo for this little shoot, they talked. One of the librarians talked about some of the things that they've been privy to in the library.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sherry, my good friend,
You're
for being here and
welcome.
sharing a little bit of the paranormal aspect
Been
of
my pleasure.
Fairhaven. And if you want to experience orbs, shadow people, God knows what else, come up to Bellingham and hang out in Fairhaven. You'll have a good time regardless what happens.